Recording in progress.
I'd like to call the February 13th meeting to order. Please rise for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Just a reminder to everyone, Old Turnpike Road Bridge between addresses 197 and 210 is still closed. Please use alternate routes. Also, starting March 5th, for our March 5th meeting, we should have our new town hall meeting room ready to go. So the intention is to move this meeting, zoning board and planning board to town hall, where our Zoom setup is much better, and hopefully we have a dedicated, a better space for our meetings. So starting March 5th, we should be over there. At this point, I'd like to recognize legislator Joe Carrillo, for the liaison report.
So I'll just bring some news that we've been working on with, everybody heard what happened at Solon County Head Start in Woodburn. We were working hard to get it, resolve the problem, and we're hoping that it'll be reopened by the end of the month. A company called CDI, who organizes these groups throughout the whole country, and they'll be taking over the facility, they'll be doing new budgets, and it'll be back on track again. So I just want to bring that news to you all. Okay, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Great news. Do we have any correspondence?
No.
Correspondence? All right, so at this point, I'd like to open it up to comments for anyone who'd like to speak.
Certainly, David Katz.
I will defer to Jim Legare. Who's next on the list?
Actually, Felicity Katz is next on the list.
Okay, so I have a quick question. I asked this question last time, and I was wondering if there's any update on the state of the village of Ateres. Where does it stand? Is it still in lawsuit? Is it resolved?
I don't know, I think we certified it, right? We certified the election?
Yeah, the lawsuit was resolved. There was election took place as scheduled. There's been a certification, and now we're waiting the statutory time. If there's no lawsuit within 10 days, within 5 days, the papers are filed, and it's filed.
And that would bring us to what order?
We're probably almost at the 10 days now.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker?
James Legari.
Hi, James Legari, 26 Murphy Road. Many of us in the community for some number of years have not only been concerned with the town's issues with water, but also the issues that we face as private owners of our own individual wells. We began really getting involved in following this issue back in the What the Hill group, I think that's what they call themselves, when they were concerned about the big development up above Hurleyville. And when they were doing test wells there for that development, it obviously affected a lot of the smaller wells of private individuals in that surrounding area. So that got us to thinking that as we continue to develop in this town with large developments, at some point
Recording in progress.
At some point in time, maybe developers would end up having to, or elect to put in their own wells. And if that were to happen, then those of us with private wells may have the same experiences that people had up there. So we started looking into what was the history of private wells, and we learned that the state of New York did not require the recording of any private wells until after the year 2002. And a lot of those wells that were recorded then were not even recorded correctly. There's actually a website that I found that shows all of the wells that have been recorded since 2002 in the town of Fallsburg. Actually, that website says for the entire state. We also learned that large wells, wells like the towns and villages have, and companies like the cheese plant that has their own well, Those large wells are not on that list, but they are monitored by DEC. And so far, we haven't been able to get any records from DEC. And of course, of also looking back at that study, another thing that prompted us to start looking at private wells that weren't recorded is that you might all remember back in the year 2022, the town had to put out a bulletin to everyone in the town over the 4th of July holiday that the town actually was on alert that we were running out of water, and everybody was asked to conserve water during that period of time. So we began asking about people who had private wells, and a lot of them in certain areas experienced the same problem at the same time. So that's led us now, we're going to be putting out a questionnaire to as many people with private wells not recorded before that year, that asked them about the depth of their well, when it was drilled, the GPM, any issues that they may have had that ties into any year where we don't get more than average rainfall during the summer months. So along with that request, we're here to ask that we work with the town's water department and combine that same data from the town wells with the data that we're going to compile for private wells that are not recorded. And the end goal for all of this data that we collect, I think, would be beneficial for the town as a whole, particularly with their planning for the future needs of not only the town's water, but how it's going to affect us in the surrounding areas that are outside of the water district, have no access to town water because we're outside of the water district, have to rely on our own private wells in order to take a bath, brush your teeth. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Any others?
No.
Anyone online that wants to speak?
No.
At this point, we're going to close the public portion, and we're going to move on to department head updates, starting with the assessor's office.
Hey, it's been a hot minute. Haven't seen you all in a while. We had the new year.
Hey,
Okay, so everybody except for Sean is new. Sean knows what he's getting. These are reports that the data collector and my assistant Paulette put together. And it's just gonna kind of give you a little bit of a summary of what's going on right now. There you go. Oh, and me, you'll know these too. Okay. So, the first page is just giving you a breakdown of the permits, what's been going on between Woodridge and the town of Fallsburg, since we do take care of Woodridge. We don't have to go through it line by line, you guys can read through, you can kind of just get a feel of what the permits are and where we're going with them. The next highlight is the open permits. That's just giving you what's active, and just so you understand, this is an extremely fluid number. This is not definite. Every day we get more permits, every day permits being closed. It is just constantly changing and constantly moving. So again, currently open for Town of Fallsburg, currently open for the Village of Woodridge, and then the new permits for the developments, it kind of just gives you a little breakdown of new ones, not ones that are actively that we've been working on, which is brand new. The last time we had a meeting was November, so some of this information is, compounded. So the next sheet is the current development projects, so these are projects that we're working on currently. We have left projects on here that are 100% as far as we know, because so sometimes they'll come up with, hey, we want to add a few more units, we want this, we want that, until we're sure, until we get okay from Chris over at the county that it's definitely a closed deal, then it'll come off that list. And same thing, you can take a look, only Sean will have November's, but you'll see the differences in the percentage of completions and just where all those developments are. At the bottom of the second page there, it gives you a breakdown of how we do our percentage of completion, so you can kind of get an idea. If it's 15%, what does that mean? If it's 75%, what does that mean? Underneath that, the deed count from the beginning of January to yesterday is 86 deeds. but we have 178 condo deeds that are not done yet, so those are sitting and waiting. I actually have to create all those parcels, that hasn't been done yet. And all of that will be done for the tentative roll. And the upcoming projects, this is definitely fluid, this is just what's in planning. When I give my report, I kind of roll in together to the building department and us, so this way you kind of have an idea of what's going on. With that. Right now, from January to July is our busy season. From now till the middle of April, we're trying to get everything in for our tentative roll. Final roll is due July 1st, but this is where we are nonstop. We're just trying to get as much on the roll as possible. We have to get all the exemptions in. So the deeds are not slowing down. So I know a lot of people ask that, how's your deed count? Our deeds we're neck and neck with Thompson always, or sometimes push a little bit more, pushing on some more development than Thompson right now. March 1st is our deadline. So for the public, March 1st, the deadline, please make sure any exemptions need to be in our office or postmarked by March 1st. Any renewals that anybody has, anything to that effect, all needs to be in. For anybody who has an exemption with New York State,
Recording in progress.
if you get a letter from them, please don't ignore the letter. If you think it could be a scam, just come to our office. We'll look over it with you and do it with you. But it's very, very important. New York State's sending out a lot of reconfirmation. We can't get your income. You have a P.O. box. Please answer those, or you're going to lose your exemption, and it's very hard. We have to fight to get those back. And I do want to say to everybody, please still have patience with receiver of taxes. New system, people, still don't know how to use it. Everyone's been pretty good so far, but we still have the whole month of February and the month of March for collecting taxes. So everybody just be super patient. Call our office if you need any help, and we'll help you. And that's it. If anyone has any questions.
Any questions?
Everyone's good? All righty. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have DPW, starting with Randy Jones.
Everything's going well. This time of year, a little rough because we share employees and equipment with other departments. So our stuff, when we squeeze it in, we can get our work done. But I got guys doing maintenance on pump stations. We're working on I&I issues at Woodridge, which we have a lot. We found a leak the other day, and we have to go redig it because something else a little further up broke, which is probably about 50,000 gallons a day that we're getting billed for just clear water coming in. So we got to find time to get up there and redig that and fix that. But other than that, everything else is pretty good.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Next would be Bobby.
I want to reiterate that leak is not from the water system. There's no chlorine in the water. It's a detriment to what's going on, but it's not drinking water. This morning we had a broken water main, just before the snowstorm. Got a phone call from Anthony. I was at work already, 4:50 maybe?
Yep.
42 between the Dollar General and Verizon. 8-inch asbestos water main. It's been reoccurring on that pipe. I've been trying to reiterate. I know Ken's working on it, Molly's been working on it, but she was here to get that line replaced with ductile iron pipe. That's a major thoroughfare of my pumping. We have 2 water storage tanks being constructed as we speak, between Fallsburg High School and Stewart's. If anybody goes that way, you'll see dirt coming out of the road. They've been taking tractor trailers, cement trucks, rebar, dump trucks. So that's in the process. They got the foundation built. This type of tank is a glass line tank, doesn't need maintenance. All the other tanks are steel tanks. They cost almost $350,000 or more to paint, strip every 5 to 10 years when they need to be painted. This is Department of Health regulations. So these new tanks are glass line. They don't have as much maintenance, and it's a 1 million gallon tank as opposed to 350,000. That's going to help us out in the summertime with storage, fire protection, whatever else could possibly happen. It's just a chip off the old block. Now, this gentleman was talking about wells. Fallsburg Well 3, which is between the sewer plant and the river, Never Sink River, had that well went down. $21,000 to have it pulled, replaced, meaning the pump and motor, new drop pipe, and electrical. It's a 450 gallon a minute well. It's a major 7 pH water. It's a major thoroughfare in our town. It runs 12 months a year, 24 hours a day. It's on automatic. Tank gets too high, or gets to our limit, well shuts off. Tank gets to another level, well kicks on. We need that fluctuation in the wintertime so the tanks don't freeze solid. They need to move up and down. So we do that by pump stations and then moving the water, shutting the wells off, turning them on. Davos, got a couple issues in Davos. I do have a water leak in Davos that's going into the sewer. That is not the town of Fallsburg's responsibility. That's the homeowner's responsibility. It's after the control point. I can shut the water off if I wanted to be,
No, say it.
You want to be so kind.
yes. So we're working on that. We're working with the homeowner to get that repaired. But that goes back to also the 50,000 gallons that is going into Woodridge's sewer system. The weather's been on my side. Now the weather was pretty bad this morning. Really quick, around 7 o'clock. It got really slick. So I had to wait to start to dig my water main break until about 10 a.m. so I don't get my gentleman killed. It only affected 3 customers, the Dollar General, the Tollivers, and Verizon, this time of year. If that happened July 4th, we're affecting a lot of other people. We have a lot of on-site meetings with Ken and Hayden as far as new developments. Everybody wants to dig tomorrow. Well, we can't let them dig in the main road until the blacktop plant's open. We got guys plowing. They want to catch their plows. Emergency, yes. I dug on 42 today. It was emergency. Cold patch will go in there until the spring. But there's a lot of developments I want to be going tomorrow. Yesterday, Mountaindale, Old Turnpike, up by the high school. The guy wants to dig. We can't let him. It's just detrimental to everybody. And the weather's unpredictable. Other than that, I lost one person. He transferred over to Monticello. He left, resigned, and went to Monticello. So I am going to be looking for another employee, basically for meter reading. I'm having issues with meter reading and keeping up to date with billing and things that have been behind the 8 ball that have got to get resurrected and get everybody working together as far as the billing and the reading. And I need maybe a nerdy guy that's really computer literate, that's not afraid to get their hands dirty at times, just to be honest. So other than that, we're taking it day by day. And you never know what's going to happen day by day. I got 2 houses on 42 on Little Brook Road, Bernie Dykes' old residence. That house was sold. Different people moved in. Well, they walked away, and now the pipes froze and broke. The house next to that, the pipes froze and broke, which is not uncommon. But when you have people living in houses for 30 years, and all of a sudden the houses transpose into other residents, nothing new. We've been very lucky this winter. It hasn't been 15 degrees below zero for the month of February, which gives us more problems. So we figured out that we got things leaking by going out and meter reading. When I know my tank's not gaining correctly, something's leaking. Mountaindale pumps 40,000 gallons a day. If I'm pumping 80,000 gallons a day in Mountaindale, something's leaking. We have to go out and try to find it. It's usually, the house is full of foggy windows and there's water running out the door. There's a great big ice ball on the side of the house. So we do a lot of searching and figuring things out. But being here long enough, I know where to look and where not to look. So with the younger employees, I'm trying to teach them the warning signs, how to figure things out. Other than that, like I say, we're taking it day by day. And hopefully March will be beautiful. 80 and sunny. And we get everybody's pool filled up before June 1st. That's another thing. Here's a tidbit I want to give to the billing. You might want to put out little memos on the bills. have your water shut off. Pools must be filled by June 1st. Things that we could do to better communicate are on the websites. So these problems don't reoccur. And it's nothing new, like I said. I've been here 37 years. You see a lot of things in 37 years. So other than that, yes, sir.
Quick question, Bobby. First of all, you are still a young.
Yeah, I'm 56. I'll be 57 in April.
On Lake Street, it's like a chronic.
Lake Street is now becoming a hemorrhage. And why? It's a 6-inch AC pipe. AC is asbestos concrete line pipe
Right.
up to the bottom of Tunnel Hill. In the late 80s, they expanded that to go to the forest.
Right.
That's 8-inch PVC pipe. So from Tunnel Hill to Lake Street is 6-inch AC pipe, which is deteriorating. I had the same problem behind the credit union in Woodburn. I had the same problem on 42 between Stewart's and the town barn, which is a major transmission line.
So when that breaks, which it seems to do all the time, do we replace a section of pipe or we just patch it?
That's all we do. We replace a section of pipe, which
Short sections.
Short
6 foot,
sections.
Whatever goes
Oh,
out.
okay.
I installed a valve by, I don't know if you remember Joey Clora's mother.
Sure, yeah.
Well, as I go now, like I installed more valves so I can keep people with more water. As
Shut
this
it off further down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's just a Band-Aid. Bottom line is, our infrastructure is failing as far as AC pipe. It's post-World War II construction, 1949, 50. I got all the old maps. It's all post-war construction. The oldest pipe was 1939 on Main Street, which we transferred over to a post-war construction AC pipe. So that pipe is out of commission, a 4-inch.
Right.
But there's trouble spots. There's Lake Street is becoming behind the credit union, 42. So, I mean, it's nothing that's gonna go away tomorrow. The pipe we cut today has I'm gonna say a good 1/8 inch of black crust. Now, there's been a lot of complaints about people, I got a little black flecks in the wall, flakes. Well, that's not going away. It's not gonna go away until you replace that pipe. That's iron and manganese built up from the groundwater, yes. So, it's a failing infrastructure, basically. Oh, an aging infrastructure. And, I hope to see it change in my day, but I don't know. I know God came looking for grants. What's going to help us is the 2 new tanks. The other second tank is in Mountaindale, in Community Park. It's called is it the Ann Lane tank?
Ann Lane.
I call it Community Park tank. They call it Ann Lane. There's 2 tanks in Mountaindale. They're both 200,000 gallons. The 1 tank is out. So right now, I only have 1 tank with 200,000 gallons of fire protection in Mountaindale. Everybody knows the fire chief in Woodburn, Ridge, Mountaindale, they all know that if there's a major fire, you better start calling tankers in. But that's going to be a larger tank because we have Town and Country, we got Sapphire, I do believe, and there's another one coming in. So we decided to put a bigger capacity tank to combat the fire protection and quantity of water, per se. So, I mean, there's a lot of things. I can go on for days, but I'm gonna try to keep it short and sweet.
You passed that point about.
I'm done. I mean, if you wanna know, I can tell you, but.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
The 1 million gallon tank that's going up on Brickman Road, do you know when that will be fully operational?
It better be by May, but right now, they build that tank from the top up. They use jacks, they do the roof, they put panels and they lift. They put panels and they lift.
Ken
Panels.
has the answer for that.
Well, Ken don't have the answers, I'm up there every day. Ken is down the road every day.
Are they on schedule?
Right, well, today, the weather's been bad, they had to build everything up. They had to put a new road in because everything was soggy. And there's no place to turn around when you get up there. It's a tight quarters. So everything's on top of one another. But as far as I'm concerned, yes, they're on schedule. I say they got the foundation started and they got the rebar starting. So it all depends on the weather. If it's 80 and sunny, great. But yes.
Schedule is May 1st, and last I knew they were on schedule, so as long as they don't have a delay, we had to have that tank up and running for the season.
I had to get that filled slowly. I just can't go open up a valve and fill that thing up fast. It's got to be filled up very slowly, just so I don't lopsided 2 tanks. But, I'm done. See you guys later.
Okay, and, Anthony? How about that one?
Down at the highway garage, we've been working pretty busy with, we did the bridge on Old Turnpike, we set the decking, that's all installed, we just gotta get some membrane put on, and in the spring when the blacktop plant opens, we just have to pay, tie it all in together with blacktop. We're putting a list together of possible roads to hopefully try to pave this summer. There's some roads we have to chip seal that they paved last year. The guy's been working down at Town Hall trying to get the addition done. They've been out coal patching, and our biggest issue honestly is trying to keep the trucks running with the snow plowing this winter. Kenny's been great as far as Kenny's the mechanic, having spare parts on the shelf, but every time a truck goes down, he happens to have the part, but we're having a hell of a time trying to replace that part. Like we have it now, but getting it is, everything's on national back order, and that's the hardest thing. Every storm we're having like between 4 or 5 trucks, something happens, we go down. This storm we fared pretty good. A couple hoses, nothing major, but the last couple we've had rear ends, springs, wheels breaking, it's been tough.
Is it the conditions that they're working in, or is it the age of the trucks that's causing the breakdown?
It's, a lot of it is age, a lot of it is, the material is very heavy. The sand is, we're having a lot of trouble with the sand this year, this winter, it's very wet. But, they put the same amount on, it's just heavy, that's the bottom line, and so that's basically what's been happening here. We came in this morning, kind of dodged a big bullet here, 7 o'clock, the guys came in, and we were able to leave at 3. But, last month there was quite a lot of overtime, a lot of snow. Those little inch storms, they eat up a lot of material in a hurry. You go around, you think it's done, it comes back again, and you gotta do it again, and sometimes it's 3 times, and you go through more material in an inch storm than you do if you have a foot. So, but other than that, everything else is doing good.
Any more questions? All right, thank you, Anthony.
Yep.
All right, and at this point, let's move on to some agenda items. First motion we have is motion to approve warrant number 12B23 dated 12/21/23 in the amount of $562,448.31. Motion. Second. All in favor? Motion passes. Second item, motion to approve warrant 01A24 dated 1/24/24 in the amount of $283,342.53. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Last item, motion to approve warrant number 02824 dated 2/7/24 in the amount of $255,308.59.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, so that's it for business. Now we have a couple of discussion items. First item for discussion is regarding solar lease options with Delaware River Solar at Aladdin Road and the second location at Frank Brown Road, presented by Walter Dorigliano.
I wanted to make sure before I start, I know Anthony probably knows, one of your retired highway department employees passed away on Saturday, Scott Mankin. So if you didn't know it, I just wanted to let you know, he lives next door to my farm in Grahamsville. So. For other than Nate, I guess, this is probably new material. Nate was here when we started this adventure in 2021. Delaware River Solar is a local solar developer. They have offices in Callicoon. They've been building solar projects throughout New York State since 2016. The in-service projects that they've built to date account for a total of 417 megawatts, which is about the equivalent of the electricity used by about 50,000 houses. There's 11 Delaware River solar projects in Sullivan County, 6 in the town of Delaware, 1 in Liberty, 1 in Fallsburg, 1 in Bethel, 1 in Tustin. If that adds up, that's 11. If it isn't, I probably forgot one. They built the first commercial scale solar project in New York State on Bear Road in 2018. It was interconnected to the grid. And they continue to build solar projects around New York State. They're fully integrated, vertically integrated, from finding land all the way through managing electric meter accounts. They have a sister company called Meadow, which is located in Callicoon, has a number of local employees next to Rich's old office. It's they manage they manage about 25,000 different electric accounts for small businesses and residences around New York State. Back in 2021, DRS proposed a lease arrangement to the town, which we're re-proposing now in 2024. We had a couple of years off when we couldn't get return emails or phone calls or any communication from the town, so we're back now, hoping we can get this to move ahead. The project locations are the town's former, I think, Sand and Gravel Bank on Aladdin Road.
Aladdin, Sand and Gravel, and the other one is landfill.
And on the Frank Brown Road closed landfill.
Yes.
Both of those properties are now exempt from tax, owned by the town, and DRS would like to make a proposal for leasing, or in the case of Aladdin Road, either leasing or purchasing that piece of property, whichever the town is more comfortable with. The next slide that's in the deck I gave you is the parcels that are involved. The Aladdin Road parcel has a lot of steep ground, and it's also got a transmission line that runs through it. It's about 62 acres. The landfill site is about 45 acres. Back in 2021, the town executed a document authorizing Delaware River Solar to file a request for a study with New York State Electric and Gas on both of these locations. And to support that study, they hired electrical engineering firms to do project layouts. Those are the project layouts that have been, they were prepared back in the fall, I believe, of 2021. The NYSEG responses to their request for preliminary information on these two circuits. The Aladdin Road circuit is on, it's connected to and fed by the Old Falls substation, which is sort of behind Dollar General. The Frank Brown Road substation, or the Frank Brown Road project site, is interconnected with the Mountaindale substation. So what was proposed was a lease of the Aladdin Road site at $30,000 a year for year one with a 2% escalator, and $20,000 a year for the Frank Brown Road site, also with a 2% escalator. When you flip to the next slide on page 7, you'll see that the rents that the town would receive over the project life cycle would be a little over $2 million. In addition, since these are now exempt, they would go back on the tax roll, and Winnie would take care of making sure that the values are correct. I'm not sure what the town of Fallsburg's viewpoint is, or Winnie's viewpoint toward taxes versus pilot payments on solar projects. There's been a recent amendment to section 575B of real property tax law, where the only legal method of assessing renewable energy in New York is a discounted cash flow method. So over the life of a project, there's one less year of cash flow to discount every year, so the values decline over the life of the project. What DRS has proposed is to make pilot payments of $5,000 a year over a 20-year pilot period, which is the pilot period that the local industrial development agency has for the other 13 projects that are in the county. They're all within, there's no project in the county that doesn't have a pilot. Again, you know, they'd be probably better off if they became a taxpayer. We can look at it either way with Wayne in terms of making a decision as to what makes sense. I know on the Aladdin Road project, pre-575B, the project had about, the post-575B value is less than half of what it was before the state changed the law. So I think there'll be higher pilot collections and there would be tax revenues. Either way would be okay. We can't predict the tax revenues, so what we've done is taken a look at what the pilot revenues would be at $5,000 per megawatt. So over the 20-year period of the pilot payment, there would be payments to the town, county, and school of $724,000. The way it works with IDA, they don't keep any of the money. 100% of what the IDA collects gets dispersed out to the county, town, and school. And after all, you know, whether it's your budget or the county budget or the school budget, you're all taxpayers here, so you're all paying your fair share of those budgets. The other thing that we did back in 2021, I think it may have been, I'm not sure who provided the information to DRS, but the town is a very large electric user. You have, as you guys know, a bunch of water and sewer plants that consume egregious amounts of electricity. I think it probably amounts to about 2 megawatts now in total. I think there's, at least at that time, there were 99 separate town meters. And the town could subscribe under the current status of the law as an off-taker from these projects. And they could get a 5% discount to the value of the electricity wherever they're buying it. And the way it works under the current programs from NYSERDA is you're actually buying monetary credits to apply to your electric bill. So it doesn't matter whether you're a default customer from NYSEG or you're buying from ESCO. It doesn't make any difference how the cost of electricity gets on your tax bill. You're buying monetary credits to pay that bill at 95 cents on the dollar, so you're saving 5%. Based upon the information that we had available back in the end of 2021, over a 25-year period, and these are all different periods because the maximum period for this would be 25 years, the town would save about $428,000 over that period of time on electric bills. There's new programs that didn't exist in 2021 at NYSERDA, one of which is called a Clean Energy Community Grant Program. If the town were to be a subscriber to clean energy from these projects, the town would qualify for those grant programs from NYSERDA. The amount that any municipality can qualify for is $100,000. It can't exceed $70,000 in any single grant, but you could make multiple grant requests. There's all kinds of different programs, and the grant amounts are based upon a theoretical point structure determined by NYSERDA. If you did nothing else, you would be in the large point category of 4,000 points. You get points based upon energy uses within the community. You're familiar with it. So, the other thing that DRS would be willing to do if the town is willing to make these leases happen, they could provide the town at DRS's cost up to 3 car charging stations in the town. In order to qualify for those programs from NYSERDA, you have to have a clean fleet designation, which means you have to have 2 level 2 charging ports and 1 fast charging port. I don't know much about it. I probably will never own an electric car. I live where it's cold and on the hill. The other thing that DRS would be willing to do through Meadow, originally, when this was first presented, the offer was a scholarship for a local person to attend the renewable energy program at Sullivan County Community College, but the county now pays the tuition for county residents. So instead, we've substituted a proposal for a Fallsburg resident student enrolled in the SUNY Green Building Tech Program to have a paid summer internship working in Meadow. So this slide is probably the one that you want to focus on. Over the 30-year lease term, the town would collect about $2 million in lease payments. Over the 20-year pilot term, the county town school would receive about $724,000 and change in pilot payments. Once that 20-year period is over, the project becomes a taxpayer, but under the way these projects are now assessed with a discounted cash flow model with a 30-year life, there's not many years left at that point to discount. So probably the amount would be greatly reduced once the pilot is over with. As I mentioned, I don't think anybody today would have a concern on the developer side or owner side about normal tax revenues, because I think they would be less over the period of time, but Winnie can help you with that. And as mentioned, over a 25-year commitment to be an off-taker from one of these projects, the town could save a little over $400,000 on electric bills. The other opportunities are those NYSERDA grants, the charging stations, and the job training opportunity of a paid internship for a Fallsburg resident at Meadows. So if you don't mind, Jen, I hate to do this to you, can you just flip to the very last slide? So from our standpoint, the next steps are, we've sent the town long ago a form of lease. We'd like to have the town let us know at DRS if this is something the town wants to consider or not. If the answer is yes, we'd like to work with Rich and the town to agree on a form of lease and get this going. If the town decides they don't want to do this, there's plenty of other available land on the circuits for both of these substations, so there's all kinds of other options. In fact, for the Old Falls substation, there's already a project approved by the planning board on Cypress Road, which would be able to be substituted if this doesn't happen at the closed gravel bank. The reason that solar developers like properties that are either abandoned mines or closed landfills is because the NYSERDA benefits for those projects, there's additional compensation, additional financial commitments to take something like a closed mine or a closed landfill and make something usable out of it. So the preference is these sites, but there are other sites that would be available on the same surface. As I mentioned, DRS would be willing to consider the purchase of the Aladdin location instead of a lease if the town would prefer to have more money up front. That's a decision the town would make. We were told sometime in the middle of 2022 that the town got an appraisal, but we've never been privy to what the appraisal was. And what could also happen is if you can get us an update on the town's electric bills, we could rerun the electric meter information. It's probably, given the development in the town, more than 99 meters now, and it's probably more than 1.86 megawatts of total consumption annually. There's also in the packet, which I'm not going to go over, but I will leave it behind for you to take a look at, there's an appendix which has a lot of either interesting or boring information, depending on your view of renewable energy, about how the state's community solar program works and how the community solar program credit system works and how the utility bill credit works. But as I said, the confusion many people have there is they think, gee, I'm buying my electricity from a solar project. You're really not. You're buying monetary credits. You're buying dollars for 95 cents. And you get to use those dollars to pay your electric bill. New York State in 2022 required the utility companies to carry that on a single bill. So you used to get an electric bill you paid and then get money from a solar company, not anymore. You now get the credits, they just go on your electric bill. There's just a line item at the bottom of your electric bill for the NIA credits.
Quick question.
Go ahead, sir.
So the lifespan of these panels is like almost 90% roughly of the term of the lease.
Not anymore.
Oh.
Nobody really knows how long modern panels are going to last. The only thing that we have to go by, since panels have become silicon-based, are panels that are decommissioned and taken off of roofs. When you replace, when you go to the expense of redoing a roof, like on a ShopRite warehouse in New Jersey,
Right.
you take the panels off and you don't put the old panels back on, you put the new panels on. And when you test those panels, that gives you an idea of what the useful life of the panels are. Most of the panel manufacturers today, Longhi, BDY, Canadian Solar is from South Korea, by the way, not from Canada. They all have warranties that exceed 80% of the production capacity after 30 years. So the panels are no longer, in most cases, going to be the item that triggers the decommissioning of a project. It'll probably be the inverter and transformer pad, because the inverter and transformer pad, on DRS projections, we use a 12-year useful life. So if that turns out to be right, you'd be replacing it in 12 years, 24 years, 36 years. Most of the new leases are 30-year leases with 2 5-year optional terms at the option of the project owner, so that if in year 36 they decide to go ahead and keep the project going for another 4 years, they have that option. But the panel life is certainly way, way, way in excess of 30 years at this point.
I was leading into a question, like, it's obviously going to be the responsibility of DRS to, clean up the property.
Sure.
After.
Yeah, we would absolutely enter into a decommissioning agreement with the town, just like we have on Rosemont Solar.
Okay.
And I don't think that those decommissioning agreements, this is my personal opinion, I don't think that they make any sense, but every municipality requires them because you don't want to be telling your grandchildren you didn't have one.
Right.
What I envision is that when panels are decommissioned now, and there's lots of panels coming off of the roofs of rooftop projects, they don't get recycled or taken to the landfill. They sell them to somebody in Haiti or somebody in some other country where 75 or 80% is good enough.
Right.
What I envision is a guy in bare feet standing next to a palm tree with a panel with a bungee cord charging his iPhone.
Right.
That's what's going to happen with your projects. They're not going to go to the landfill. I think the cost of decommissioning, in my opinion, is a positive, because I think the panels, when panels are decommissioned today, they're sold to a broker who sells them to somebody else to use them. And the steel that comes out of the ground has more value than the cost.
So it's an asset, not a liability.
Yeah, but having said that, there isn't a single person who buys into my thought process.
Right.
And I wouldn't either if I was on the town board. I'd want a decommissioning agreement and a bond, so that if I'm wrong and there is a cost 30 or 40
Yeah, who
years
knows
from now,
what,
you're
right.
not charging Sean's grandchildren to pay the cost of decommissioning the
Right.
project if the developer walks away. So we contemplated decommissioning.
Okay.
How much energy would, if both these projects were online, how much energy would both these projects?
The projects as now designed, and the projects, remember the projects were designed in 2021. So the first project at Aladdin is 3.5 megawatts AC. I suspect that the panels at the time were probably 535 watts, would be my guess, per panel. The newest, the automakers come out, with a new better car every fall. You can buy a new minivan that's better than the last minivan. Solar panel manufacturers come out with a new model multiple times per year. Right now, the wattage on panels that are being installed is 650 watts. And by the time we would get through a process to build these, I'm sure it'll be greater than that. And I suspect these were probably 535s at the time these were proposed. So
And that's just an efficiency thing, or just more efficient?
they're not any bigger. They're still 1 meter by 2 meters.
Right.
It's just like your refrigerator uses less energy. I mean, it's the inverse of that. They've come up with different blends of silicon that's in the panel behind the glass facing that just produces more energy than the last generation. There's gotta be an end in sight somewhere, but the first project I did, which was with, I think you were the lawyer, on Bear Road. They were using 300s. The panels were 300 watts each panel.
Right.
Now they're 650 watts. They're the same size. They've just figured out ways through science to make them more productive. So 3.5 megawatts was the size for Aladdin, 3.741 megawatts for Frank.
So basically, that's the floor and potentially lit.
They could potentially be more, but again, these are layouts not based upon field work. These are layouts based upon like aerial photography, aerial topography for LiDAR. When they get out there and actually physically do the work, they did a huge amount of work. DRS, based upon the relationship that they had in 2021, has already spent a lot of money on these projects. They've had electrical engineers design the projects. They did a full phase 1 environmental on the landfill. They still don't want to buy it, by the way, so don't get any ideas. But the problem with a landfill is that there's a landfill closure plan. Mark Millspa, Sterling Environmental, if I remember right.
We have to test the well every year.
Yeah, so there's legacy problems. The town doesn't want to give that up, because if somebody else screws it up, the town will be responsible. They're the ones that signed the landfill closure agreement, so you don't want to sell it, but if you did, it wouldn't matter. Nobody wants to buy it. It's different with the closed mine, the mine closure plan. How long ago, Anthony, did that?
I'm not sure when.
I think it's been almost 30 years,
More than that, I think.
maybe more than 30. Billy remembers.
Yeah, waiting.
It's beyond the time frame where there's any legacy
Yeah.
issues like testing the wells, so that's why DRS would be willing to either lease or purchase a lap road. So any questions?
I feel like Walter should start singing.
What's that?
Can't hear him?
It's a good, I'm totally deaf almost.
Oh.
Yeah. Probably an advantage at times.
It definitely was tonight.
Just a quick question. So these two lots are 61, almost 62 acres and 45 acres. Are you proposing to lease all 45 acres and 62 acres?
We would propose to lease them all, and then if the town had any interest in it, we would relinquish anything outside of the project site. But until we get out there and do physical.
But the amount you're offering, is it per acre?
No, $30,000 for Aladdin
So it wasn't
and
like
$20,000
$800,
for the
$1,200,
land.
like the previous agreement?
The previous agreement was on a per acre basis, but we don't, those don't seem to make much sense anymore. But we would be, the lease form provided indicated that at the request of the owner, the town, anything outside of the project site would be relinquished back. I haven't seen a lot of governments want that, because when you get it back, it goes off the tax roll.
Well, not only that, you're at the center of the site, so there's really not much you can do with it.
Well, it would be at the center of the site on Aladdin Road, you'd be up on top of the hill.
Right, but everything else is wooded, so you have to tear down the trees.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to your question is, these are offers to lease the entire site with the understanding that once it's designed and built, DRS would be willing to relinquish back to the town anything outside of the project area if the town wants it back. That's how the lease was drafted, that was proposed.
Walter, just a quick question on the landfill one. So obviously we have to mow it and maintain that per the closure agreement. Now, when the panels, does anyone maintain like in between the rows and whatnot
Sure.
of the panels?
Yeah,
Is
like
that
on
something that
Rosen.
you guys would be?
Yes. All solar projects, all approvals by planning boards that are well represented, and yours is, require an operation and maintenance plan as part of the approval process. So like on Cypher Road, which is, sort of the alternative to Aladdin, it's also on the Old Falls substation. It's a unique situation there because there was a local farmer next door who said, you know what, if you want me to, instead of paying somebody to come and mow this, you can pay me to put my sheep in there and they'll eat the grass. You can't put goats in there because they eat the wires and they jump on the panels, but you can put sheep in there.
Really?
So, yeah, so there's an operation and maintenance plan, and all of the maintenance of the area between the strings would be maintained by the project owner.
It's on my deaf side, I can't do
So I didn't put that in there, you'd save the cost of mowing.
Well, yeah. I just gotta make sure that it gets mowed, or if not, we get in trouble.
And that would be a ballast project, we talked to Mark
Yeah,
Gilspot.
because we can't go down into the color.
Yeah, he's not convinced that it would, it would either be an amendment to your closure plan,
Yeah.
or it would be a ballast project.
Would the payments start as soon as you take possession or after the solar panels?
The payments would start at COD, the commercial operations. We're not opposed to making some type of a payment up front, but the fact that you get a lease doesn't equate to the fact that a project gets built. There's all kinds of engineering considerations, there's all kinds of potential fatal flaws there. You could find, a tree with Indiana bats in it, you could find.
So if it takes you like a year to go through planning and get the final approval and then actually build it, there would be no revenue to the town?
There would be, they would consider making nominal revenue payments to the town during that period of time. But during that period of time, they're spending literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on electrical engineers, civil engineers, And the biggest unknown cost at this point is the cost of the upgrades to the circuit. I can hear them now. The utility companies, NYSEG's utility grid is the very best technology that was available during the Korean War. They haven't done a thing to upgrade it until the PSC threatens them or fines them. So sometimes when you put in an application to interconnect, you get back crazy amounts because you find out that, I had a project in the town of Deer Park where the bare copper wire was installed in 1935. And it was millions of dollars to put up new wire. You couldn't interconnect, that was a developer cost, they walked away. So we think we have a pretty good idea, because of other projects, what the interconnection costs, we call it the IX costs, would be to get into the Old Falls substation or the Mountaindale substation, but it's less than perfect. Sometimes one or two poles makes a difference. I mean, if you go to the end of Beaver Lane, you're all locals, you know where that is, where our Rosenshine's road goes in. Next time you drive by there, you'll see a pole nearly at the end of Beaver Lane that's got a big sub-bank on it. There's a big difference in cost hooking in one side or the other of that pole.
So you're feeding the electricity straight into the grid, right? It's not going to increase the capacity of the substations to be able to provide power.
No, what happens is, the substation is a place where there's power that comes in from the transmission side and it goes to a transformer. And in the transformer, it's reduced from transmission voltages, which are very high voltages, unusable by any of us, to much lower voltages. In the case of this site, these are 12.4 volt, they're 12.4 kV lines. It needs to go down from 12.4 kV to 220 to go in your house, which is why there's another transformer on the pole. All of these little projects like this all feed the distribution side of the electric grid, not the transmission side. They're downstream from the transformer.
Okay, so the inverter, so basically you're using the inverters to feed the...
We're using the inverter to invert the electricity from direct current to alternating current.
Are these not transmission lines that's running
No,
straight through the
this is
building?
all these small projects feed into distribution lines, not transmission lines. So when power is being provided by a local community solar project into the distribution system, it means that less power is coming through the transmission line and through the transformer at the substation, because you're meeting the local electric demand through locally generated power. The only thing that is lazier than, like, I won't say anything about, I'm not gonna pick an employee to pick on. The laziest thing out there is electricity. When electrons go into a wire, they don't wanna go any further than they need to go. So they will satisfy the nearest demand. They always go on the path of least resistance. So if there was a project on Frank Brown Road, like the project on Rosemont Road, all the electric generated by those projects is being used by demand within a very small area from those project locations.
So we could potentially feed the substations, but does that mean the substations can handle 1,000 more homes as a result?
No, because the substation limitation is based upon, there's two reasons for that. The substation limitation is based on the size of the transformer in the substation. And renewable energy, while it does reduce the Earth's carbon footprint, the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. So you have to have alternate sources, probably old-fashioned fossil fuel sources of providing electricity when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow, until we figure out someday, and we're not anywhere near there yet, how to store electricity efficiently.
So because of the proximity to the substation will primarily be using this power first.
Never get to the substation. It'll be used by wherever the nearest demand is. So if I'm sitting here making electricity, it's gonna go to that light. It's never gonna go anywhere near the substation. When I put those electrons from a solar project into the grid, into a wire, they're gonna come out of the wire at the closest demand place. The first draw, electricity is the laziest thing on the planet. It goes no further than it has to go to satisfy a demand.
So what's the voltage of these distribution lines?
This is a 12.4 volt distribution line. At least
So does
for,
that need to be stepped down at the substation or some other place?
no, it's step down at the transformer between the distribution line and your meter pan. We're going,
On the pole, basically.
we're going into the, on the pole or on a pad. There's a lot of, I drive around Fallsburg once in a while. I see a lot of pad transformers being installed now. So it could be a transformer on a pole, or it could be a pad transformer. But this project will put electricity at the distribution line voltage into the distribution line, and then you'll take it out at the usable voltage for your use. Could be, typically for a residence, it's 220.
Any questions from the board? Thank you for presenting. Our next presenter is Bagel Machine Historical Marker presented by Gordon Buchanan.
He said he wanted to be online and you were.
Yeah, but you already figured out something.
I don't see him online.
Then they have, they should have a link, right?
He has a link.
He's talking.
Is that him, Carol?
Yeah,
You need
that's.
to unmute yourself.
Okay, start.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We hear you.
Okay, I'll start over from the beginning. Good evening to everyone, and my thanks to, first of all, to Councilman Sean and also to Jennifer for helping me set up this virtual visit from Arizona. Also to Supervisor Ben Simone and the board for giving me a few minutes on the agenda. Before I outline the project at hand, I just want to do a brief introduction of myself and how I got here and who I represent so everybody is clear. As stated, I am Gordon McAdams. brother Henry and I have been doing projects for them for the last 12 or 13 years. And we are local boys and grew up just south of Monticello. We worked on a number of previous projects that involved historic plaques. First, there were two in the town of Fallsburg, one in the village of Monticello, and one initially in the town of Thompson. More recently, we worked on a project that possibly some of you heard about, which was the one-room schoolhouse project in the town of Thompson, where we put up 20 plaques over a period of years with the help of our committee. And because of that, I should say with all of that, work with different municipalities, we have had absolutely great help from the town of Fallsburg, the village of Monticello, and particularly Bill Reber and the board at the town of Thompson. We would not have been able to do that project without their help. We're currently working on some other projects here, the Neversink River Valley and the Sullivan County Courthouse, and also another plaque for the Jewish War Veterans Building in Monticello, which I'll get back on when I return to Sullivan County shortly. About 2 years ago, Sue Cecil, who is the president of the Sullivan County Historical Society, asked my brother and I, because of us doing these various plaque projects, if we would be interested in doing the research and the sign wording for a possible plaque on Main Street in Hurleyville. The sign would be dedicated to former Hurleyville resident Louis Label Wyszynski, who had invented a faster production bagel machine, among other things. Label was always working on a lot of stuff. The machine had been donated to the Historical Society and is at the museum. It's been on display there for a number of years. So in the beginning, my brother and I really knew nothing about Mr. Wyszynski, and we started to dig in with the help of the Historical Society into newspaper articles, and I gave the board a copy of the one from the New York Times as an example that Mr. Wyszynski appeared in. And we were through interviews with individuals who knew him, and I actually ended up having a phone conversation with his daughter. We were convinced that Label was definitely a local character and who was invented a lot of stuff and deserved to be remembered. In talking to different people who knew him, and that's why these projects are always fun to work on, one of the humorous things that came about was that turns out Label had a Volkswagen car back in the day that he converted to run on used vegetable oil. And his free source actually, for used vegetable oil was because all of the diners at the time around Sullivan County, there was one in every hamlet back in the day, had a deep fryer. And Label made sure that he was able to get that used vegetable oil from their deep fryer. So the joke around was that you always knew when Label was in town because the exhaust from his car smelled like French fries. We definitely believe that Label deserved to be remembered, and Sean, you put up the rendition of the sign, which is a typical historical one that we've used with the New York State logo at the top. The credit line on the bottom would be the town of Fallsburg 2024. It will be installed in the center of Hurleyville, right across from the current mobile station, where the traffic light is and the train used to come across there. It's very visible from the parking lot. It's also very on the sidewalk in the street. That parking lot is the site of the Wyszynski Bakery and Label workshop was in the back. I gave copies of that picture of the bakery to the board. That lot is currently owned by the Center for Discovery, and I've given the board a copy of the letter that we got from Pat Dollar authorizing the installation there. That was almost 2 years back. I also gave the board a quote on the plaque from the foundry that we use in many cases, $1,275 for the plaque, and we add in the post and shipping, the total comes to $1,565. The board also has copies of some of the research info that we had in our file. So as simple as this, and on behalf of the Sullivan County Historical Society, I'm asking for the board's help and see if they would consider funding this plaque. We'd like to get it started as soon as possible because these things take a number of months. By the time you get the application into the foundry, they send you the proof back, you give them okay, and they get it in the production line. There can be 3 or 4 month time lapse depending on how busy they are at any given point in time, but we've worked with them a number of times over the years. So we're hoping to get this in the production line, get it made, and be able to put it up in the spring or early summer. So at this point, I'd like to just open it up for comments or questions if anyone has any.
Any questions from the board?
How much does the price usually cost?
It said 1565.
65 total.
I couldn't hear it over the music.
Oh. I don't know if there was change in that, but he said 1565.
Yeah, the plaque is $1,275 on the quote, and then when you add in the post and shipping, the total comes to $1,565.
Who installs it?
Who are you gonna have install the marker?
I have a volunteer to install it. He doesn't know that he volunteered yet,
Oh, so he's voluntold.
but he's gonna volunteer, yeah.
Got it.
Not a problem. Like Sean volunteered to help me out, we're gonna get him a honorary membership in the Historical Society. Thank you, Sean.
Welcome. How you doing?
Just volunteering with the Historical Society, didn't you hear yourself?
I got voluntold.
Any additional questions or comments from the board? All right, well, thank you so much for presenting tonight. Really appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thank you all very much for having me. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, with that said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
All right.
Okay, we are adjourned.